Good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is for you. I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Zach Shomler. This is the Desperately Dating Podcast, episode 17. I believe it's 17. We'll see how it comes out in order. We hope it's 17.
Somewhere in there.
Somewhere. Joining me
close.
is my wonderful and wise stepmom, Karyn. Karyn, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Hanging tough?
Yep.
Sure, it looks comfy. I like it.
Why, thank you.
They can't see it, but I can. And man, blue, comfy.
Nothing wrong with that.
What is today's topic all about?
Well, today's topic is about whether or not minimalists and maximalists can get along and coexist peacefully.
Do you want to start with a story? Maybe you're what? So I tend to say yes, but it's kind of based on our lifestyles and who we live with and our experiences. What's your experience doing this process of living with a minimalist versus a maximalist?
Right. So in my current relationship with your dear father, I'm definitely the minimalist in the relationship.
Yes, you are. You wrote a great article about it on the Desperately Dating website where you make
thanks.
It's glorious to read how you make fun of my dad about his
thank you.
olives and his mugs, and it's like he forgets he lives in the Northwest, and he's got like a bazillion freaking pairs of sunglasses, and he'll tell you all about them. One for breakfast, one for lunch, one for dinner, one for second breakfast. Dude, what the hell?
Yeah, and I didn't even talk about his clothes. Okay.
No one needs to know about that dark secret.
Even when we're just staying home all day, he'll still, have at least 3 or 4 outfit changes.
Yeah. Well, I got to have one for breakfast, then one for working, and then one for our walk, of course. And then probably an outfit for dinner with a Hawaiian shirt.
Yes, he definitely does that. Yep, he goes upstairs and changes for dinner.
Every time.
Every night. Yep, he's kind of formal that way.
Quirky,
and then,
he
has a different athletic outfit for walking versus yoga versus anything else. Versus weeding or...
And now the result of this is he's got a bunch of shit. He just has a bunch of effing stuff.
Pretty much. He has his own designated closet in the house that we have designated the hobbit hole.
I've seen it. It is a hobbit hole. It's a perfect way to describe it.
It's the under the staircase
and
location.
It's deep, right?
And it's very deep.
And does it go around under the small stairs?
It doesn't
too?
go around, but it does, go pretty deep down in there. And I just don't even know what all's in there. I'm afraid.
Deep under
I'm
the
very,
stairs.
very
There's
afraid.
a bunch of stuff and no one needs to know. Probably comic books and
I don't know.
Food, snacks for sure.
Occasionally he trots out, something from the depths of in there. And I was like, wow, I had no idea. No idea you had that. But yeah.
So my dad is very much not a minimalist.
He's not a minimalist, whereas I'm, the pretty much the opposite. I don't tend to hang on to stuff. I actually take a lot of joy when I can do a culling and get rid of things. Sometimes I'm a little overzealous on that and maybe get rid of things a little too quickly is what he would say. And he always takes great delight when that happens.
When he's right. The one rare occasion.
Yep, exactly. Like I think I got rid of some single-use appliance. I was like, I never use this thing. I'm going to get rid of it. And then, of course, sure enough, 2 weeks later, I'm making something where, oh, yeah, that's why I had that thing. And yes, he crowed all day long about that. But
it's like, yeah. But for every time he gets the crow, it's probably 40 for you, right?
Right, exactly. I mean, if we were up to him, we would have, basically 2 of everything. And if you look at the condiment section in our fridge, I mean, it's just really out of control.
I'm the same way, unfortunately.
Are you?
No, I'm getting better and I'm learning. I'm definitely one of those guys where Liz makes fun of me, but she also says it's kind of sweet where I'll buy a pair of shoes and I'll buy 2 of the exact same pair of shoes because I'm like, well, I want one for when this one wears out, right? I like having a backup of everything.
So it's your dad. Oh, the apple does not fall far from the tree.
Unfortunately, no. And I'm getting better and we'll talk about that in a minute, but even the condiment drawer, it's a horrible thing about we have 4 mustards for no reason. It's just what I do apparently, and I'm working on it. But Liz does say that it's kind of nice because when she needs more batteries, we always have more batteries. And
yes.
when tend to have when something breaks, we tend to have more of it. So it's kind of a blessing. It's also a pain in the ass,
right, to manage the space.
But we have learned that I have my space and she has hers, and my space might be cluttered and overfull with stuff, but her space is very much not. And the shared space, I kind of defer to her,
right?
Where it's either organized or it's gone,
right?
And it's been interesting to learn.
Yeah, I think having separate spaces like that, we have our separate closets, I think that's key. If we were going to try and share a closet, I don't know what would have happened to our relationship, honestly. I don't know if we would have survived. But the fact that we have separate ones, I think, is nice. So, mine's, pretty minimal and, not overfilled. And, your dad has been known to break closet bars because he has too many hangers on him.
One has been known.
One has been known. So having that sort of division is helpful,
so nice.
To have a space where you can just totally be yourself and have it exactly the way you want it, I think is important if you're living together.
What do you do with shared space? Because you guys share an office, right?
We do. It's kind of an ongoing negotiation, I would say. I try to go his way and he tries to come my way. And I think a lot of the reason why that works out is I think that we have tried to understand why each other is that way. I think he has come to understand that for me, it is sort of like a anxiety reducer, honestly, to have my space clean and orderly and not too much stuff around that I feel like I have to manage and, clean around and whatever. So I think that he has come to appreciate that about me, and that's the why. I like things that way.
Well, if I may, Liz always says one of the things for her, she's a minimalist for sure. And she said for a lot of her life, so many things were out of control for her. But the one thing she always could control was the organization of her room or her space. Her very limited space was always, I can control this one thing, is how organized and neat it is. And so for her, it is very fulfilling and very calming to organize and have the house clean and organized and in place. And I actually have come to really appreciate that about her. It's actually, I think, she thinks of it as a weakness at times. I think it's actually more of a strength than a weakness. But that's why. There's a reason behind every kind of behavior. And there's a reason behind that for her, for sure.
Right. I think where you can run into trouble is where when you become very rigid about things. So earlier in my life, I think I was probably even more towards the extreme of minimalist and, kind of clean freakishness. Never to the level where I was like scrubbing things, every hour on the hour or anything like that. But, I liked things really clean. Well, the other thing that happened was I had kids. And it's like...
Oh, man, they're little terrors that will definitely screw up your organization.
I remember so clearly this one time where I was trying to I was sweeping the floor and the kids were both toddlers, like maybe 2 and 3 years old. And they're following behind me.
Oh, man.
Making a new trail of, crumbs and stuff on the floor. And I was just like, oh, man. And I just kind of had to talk to myself and say, this is not sustainable. I mean, I don't want to be that mom that is making my kids' lives miserable just so that I can have, everything the way that I want it, that I would prefer it. So I had to sort of learn to live with a little bit more clutter, a little more mess. And then when your dad moved in,
oh boy,
that was another time where we had to sort of negotiate that. But I think that we've kind of found the common ground. And, he appreciates about me that it's sort of an anxiety reducer, that I like things, somewhat neat-ish. But then I also appreciate about him that, and he gave me permission to share this about him, that his childhood was one really of a lot of deprivation.
Yep.
There was not an abundance of food or clothing or love, for that matter. And I think that has affected how he feels about stuff.
Well, I know we did a topic on Flawed Humans, my other podcast, me and my dad, where we talked all about, it's the first time in my life he's ever really opened up about his childhood. If you haven't listened to it, go listen to it. And my dad talks about his kind of neglect and his struggle. He growing up in Southern California with basically nothing.
Yeah.
On a dirt road with no running water, no electricity, no personal space or personal stuff. And so I think he probably compensates for the pain in his childhood and in a totally understandable way. I didn't have XYZ when I was a kid. I'm going to get XYZ now as I'm 50. And I'm the same way. If you look right behind you, there's a gigantic curtain, and behind that curtain is a closet. Do you know what's in that closet, Karyn?
What?
Oh, my goodness. It's about, I have about 13 video game consoles.
Okay.
With 100-something games. When I was like 6 years old, my dad did a pretty good job giving us what we wanted, but there were a lot of things we couldn't have, like extra frivolous stuff that I just never got as a kid. And I had a running list from the time I was 6 years old until I was 18, 19 of all the video games I wanted to buy. And when I got my first job in college and then Zane died, I was like, well, I have all this money saved up and I'm miserable. And so what I did was I bought every game on the list, every single one.
Yeah.
And I don't know if half of them I might never touch. I'm doing my best to try to get through them as an adult now. But for me, it was like, I never got this thing I wanted as a kid. Now I have it. And it felt really good to get what I wanted as a little child. So I kind of I somewhat understand where my dad's coming from. My dad's on a much bigger scale than I was. I had a pretty solid childhood. His was way more messy than mine, for sure. But it's that deep need of I want this. And what I think is cool is that you said it in our meeting before the show. You said it's not always about you. It's not always about me. Like it's hard when I'm saying,
Yeah.
it's not always about me, Zach Shomler.
Right.
Sometimes it's about Liz's needs, my girlfriend's needs. And you've kind of recognized the same thing. It's not always about what I want. It's about what my partner wants.
Right. I think it's definitely a process. And I think understanding that there's usually a reason for our behavior as humans,
Yeah.
that's a big generalization, but especially with this topic. So I think for both of us to understand where the other one was coming from and those needs was helpful. And so we're sort of in the process of finding where that middle ground is. And I think we've been doing a pretty good job. I am able to tolerate a whole bunch of coffee mugs and 4 jars of olives and, all those sorts of things and lots of clothing because I know that is filling, like a really deep emotional hole in your dad and it's serving a purpose for him. And I don't also think that it's probably going to exist forever. I think it's something that once he's been loved enough and has had enough for long enough, then, I expect that need will probably subside a little bit.
Do you think that, let me know if this statement I'm about to make is accurate. Love is not always about getting what you want. It's kind of finding common ground and often, like Liz really wants it neat. And because I love Liz, I'm like, well, all the shared space, let's do it her way because I'm happy to. And honestly, like I've gotten to the point where like when we have 4 ketchups in the fridge, right? And one's empty and like it's like throwing it away feels good. Or the other day, a great story, Liz looked in the bottom of our trash can and was like so excited, elated because I had a pair of shoes I haven't worn in like 4 years. That's just been weird on our doorstep. She's like, what the hell is this? Can we get rid of it? And
it's like a doorstop.
And she let me do it, right? She let me figure it out. But yesterday, 2 days ago, I threw it away. She's like, what? Like she couldn't believe it. And then I took some stuff to Goodwill, some old bedding and some old pillows and some old clothes. And she was like, it felt good for me to have the clutter gone. I felt the freedom of release. And she was so happy. Felt good to make her happy. And I'm learning too to try to, I want to be more minimalistic. Now, there are some, my video games, I'm never going to budge on that. That's something I wanted as a kid. And she lets me have that one. But the little stuff like, okay, I have old clothes I never wear. Let's get rid of that. And it does feel good to do it her way and get rid of some stuff too. And so there is common ground is so important. That's part of, I think, love is when you say, what does my partner value as well? How can I meet their needs with my habits too? If that makes sense.
No, it absolutely does. And what I started thinking about when you were telling that story was how would that have felt differently if she had instead come in and said, I can't tolerate this. You need to get this shit out of here right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Or she threw them away without talking to me.
Right. Or just went ahead and did it and said, my way or the highway. That would have felt completely different. But instead, you understood that it's something that's important to her. She was able to, let it go until you got there.
Yeah.
And the result was, I think, way better for both of you, right? So then you felt good because you were doing something you knew that would help her and honor her.
Yeah.
And then she probably felt good too because she wasn't a nag or, being rigid.
Well, I think the key is communication, right? You're right. It's not only saying what needs to be said, it's saying it in a way that the person can hear.
Yep.
She came up to me and said, hey, I don't know that you need these shoes. And can we be honest? Like, when's the last time you wore these? They still have sand on them from a beach trip 3 years ago.
Right.
And I'm like, you're not wrong.
Yep.
Now give me time to process this
it.
and then throw it away at my own time. And she allowed me to do that. She didn't come with the iron fist, right? She was, and she didn't even say you need to throw them away. She said, look, I don't know that you need these. Let me kind of put the puzzle together in my own head and throw them away on my own.
Yeah.
And that freedom is so important. And not only the freedom, but the communication is so huge.
Well, and I think that too in your own relationship, you'll figure out like what manner or approach or whatever is going to work. Like for your dad and I, it's become like a way that we tease each other. I tease him about all his outfits and he teases me about getting rid of stuff and then needing it. And, so we can find the humor in it and just sort of laugh about it. But also neither one of us, I think, feels like we're not heard or appreciated, like that we're just doing the best we can. And there are reasons why we are the way we are. And we're, trying to grow and become better people. And it is working.
Maybe this is something we should do as a topic someday.
Ooh, tell me.
But teasing is so, I think, healthy and important, but also can go too far, right? There's that line where are you saying are you saying you're hurt in your heart, or are you really kind of having fun and jabbing for fun? I know in relationships sometimes my girlfriend talks about this with me. She says her ex-boyfriend often he would say stuff just to hurt her feelings. It wasn't silly. There was not fun. He would kind of put it under the guise of teasing or a joke, but it was really just complaining or really just had something he was deeply upset about and would complain about it in a mean way and then put it under the guise of teasing. That's not real teasing.
Yeah.
But there's that fine line there because she teases me all the time about my ridiculous habits.
Right. Yeah. But I agree that's a great topic and we should think about that. Your dad and our approach on that is sometimes if we even have an inkling that we might have gone over that line, our phrase for each other is, I didn't hurt your heart with that, did I? So it allows the other person to say, oh, that was a little too close to the bone or whatever.
I like my Twinkies.
Yeah, it's
stupid. My dad has these goddamn snacks hidden all. I know this because I grew up with him having snacks in our house, and then I go to their house now, and I find his little clusters of snacks hidden throughout little drawers and cubbies, and you're like, Jesus, Dad, are you a squirrel?
It gives him comfort.
The olives one killed me because you're like, whatever olive shortage we might have someday, he's ready.
We're covered. Yep, we got it.
I want to go back to something that you guys have a phrase. I steal another phrase you guys use, which is say it out loud. Mm-hmm. And if you're in a relationship with somebody and you are a minimalist, they're a maximalist, or reversed, right? If you guys don't have the same approach to that, to clutter and space and yada yada, say it out loud. Mm-hmm. Have a conversation. And then it's important to have that conversation without being mean or rude or attacking. But if you're able to have a conversation and a dialogue about it and work through it, you can probably come to some kind of understanding or some middle ground. It's really bad to never address it, but it's also bad if you address it and are just mean and rude and shaming. If you came to my dad and said, you have these fucking snacks everywhere, way too many clothes, I hate your coffee mugs, why do you have 11 pairs of sunglasses in the Pacific Northwest where it rains 5 out of 7 days a week? What the hell? If you came at him with that anger rather than understanding, it wouldn't work. So you have to be able to have that conversation in a calm, respectful way.
Yeah, and I think a good approach is instead of going into that kind of a conversation thinking that you have the answers or that you're in the right, it's better to come in with curiosity.
Yeah.
Really just be curious about your partner. Like, really come in there trying to understand where they're coming from.
Well, that's why Liz did that. She said, what's up with this pair of shoes?
Right. That's a great way to ask that.
It wasn't attacking.
Yeah, it's not
And
threatening.
she wasn't saying we need to get rid of them. She was saying, what's the deal with them?
Yeah.
Can we figure out why this? Because again, no one in my relationship and in your relationship, nobody really won. There's not a side. The minimalist didn't win, and the maximalist didn't win. You found a area in the middle. But that's how I think most people are, is you find common ground. And if you go into the conversation, you're right, saying, I'm right, I'm going to win. You got to bend your will and get rid of all your extra bullshit because that's not how it is here. That's not going to be a good conversation. It's not going to go well. Either that or it's a really unhealthy relationship.
Right. Yeah.
And he's like, oh, get rid of all the stuff I love.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to lose you. That's not good at all.
That would make me like him less too if he had that reaction,
Correct.
Yeah. I agree.
Middle ground's important.
Middle ground is important. Just like with that stupid pair of shoes. I mean, Liz didn't know if that had some weird symbolic meaning to you or, some memories tied up in them. Who knows? So it's better just to ask.
Yeah. Karyn, that's all I have. Do you have anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. It was fun, though.
That was a good time. It was fun. I love any chance we get to make fun of my father.
He kind of likes it, too, I think.
Oh, yeah. Well, he listens and he goes, you little fuckers. They got me, but they're not wrong either.
He's a good sport.
Guys, my name is Zach Shomler. Thank you so very much for tuning in. Hope you have a great day. This is me signing off. Karyn?
Adios.